my countrymen. Once again, this is Eli Belislao Pamatong, President of the Republic of the Philippines. And tonight I have come to share with you the current developments of the country and partly the world. But before I proceed, I would like to thank the people, the freedom fighters, who have been tirelessly exposing the evils of the puppet communist government under Mayor Duterte. Because of you, some of the abuses in the government have been curbed or at least minimized. You will recall that the Sinovac sale was about 3,229 per dose. Now, because of you, and I thank you for that, it is on sale only at 650 pesos per dose. But even if that is true, I am still advising the Filipinos not to submit to injection because Sinovac can be very dangerous. Sinopharm had 73 side effects, one of which was blindness, another possibility was impotence, and even death. Sinopharm is only effective 50%. We don't know the other 50%. It could kill you. And what is even tragic here is that the Davao City itself, under the leadership of his daughter, is ordering Pfizer from America. Davao City is not using Sinovac. And at first, Duterte said he would be the first to submit to Sinovac injection publicly. Then later he changed his mind. He said, "Kayo muna, you are the priority." And after he was criticized, he said, "Okay, I will submit myself to be injected publicly. Publicly, ahead of the others, but it should be private. Nobody can see." You see, this guy is playing with the minds of the Filipinos. And the Filipinos don't seem to mind all the lies, the betrayals, the supreme abuses of the Duterte administration. They are like spiritual twins with Trump, who, thank God, already left the office. During his 4-year presidency, Trump lied more or less 23,000 times. 23,000, not hundreds. He was lying left and right. And the same thing with Duterte. He said, for every 5 statements that I make, 3 are not correct, 3 are false. He said that openly, and that is on record. So this guy cannot be trusted, because obviously, Dr. Dayan was right when he said Duterte is insane. But the Filipino people did care. They seem to be most of them, insane than Duterte himself. So again, I thank the Filipinos who are not afraid to come to the front line of freedom and risk their lives in the hope that somehow they can change the image of this country. I hope there will be many of you coming to the front lines, especially the young people who seem to be quiet in the country today, unlike during my time, when thousands of us marched forward from the University of the Philippines under a sea of undulating red flags, protesting against the corruption of my time. But now, the students seem to be quiet and submissive to the powers that be. Anyway, yesterday I received information from my co-workers in the United States. I think you're aware that you can remember or recall that I told you I work in the United States as criminal investigator and then as a lawyer. And during my stay in the United States, I have friends. Some of them are in the CIA, some of them are in the other intelligence agencies. And once in a while, they share with me some information that can help the Filipino people. And they told me that President Joe Biden is very serious in upholding the arbitral decree or ruling of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, upholding the ownership of the Philippines over the West Philippine Sea. And that can be dangerous because China will hold on to what they have possessed or invaded the West Philippine Sea no matter what. That is a Philippine territory. But China came out with nine-dash line claiming that even the Philippines belong to China. But now, Joe Biden says he will stand pat on the truth that the West Philippine Sea belongs to the Philippines. If he comes to the Philippines, and assuming that Mayor Duterte would not resign or step back, he will be embarrassed because, of course, President Joe Biden will not talk to a communist, will not see or even shake hands with a person who is a puppet of China and who is giving the West Philippine Sea to China for free. Joe Biden is aware that Duterte, during his 4 years in office, allowed 3 million Chinese, mostly soldiers, to enter the Philippines to protect Duterte in the event that the armed forces cannot be bribed. But unfortunately, I think Duterte succeeded in using his intelligence fund together with the Chinese support, financial support, to buy the generals and keep them quiet or submissive to his abuses in the Philippines. Sabi niya, yung mga hiniran na yan, busog na busog yan, pinakain, pinalaman ko ng pera. That is the greatest abuse, very humiliating abuse. But the generals, perhaps because it's true, are quiet. Hindi na bali kung yung mga anak nila ay mapahiya doon sa eskwelahan. Kasi talagang pinalamon ng pera ang mga general. That is giving me a hard time. Because if the generals were not bribed, then 99% or 100% of the generals would be supporting me. Because I am a president by operation of law under the Constitution, and Duterte said he does not believe in the Constitution. The Constitution, according to Duterte, is a piece of shit. If you don't believe in the Constitution, then you reject any form of peace and order, I mean rule of law. You are outside the law. You are operating outside the coverage of the law. But the generals, all of whom have taken oath, sworn to protect the Constitution, and the republic upon which it stands are not concerned about it. As a matter of fact, they are protecting Rodrigo Duterte. After their stay or service in the military, many of them have accepted jobs under Duterte, like Carlito Galvez, who is so committed to the corrupt activities of Duterte that he does not seem to care if his career or his reputation is totally destroyed because of his alliance with Duterte. Last night, I wrote 2 letters to the office of the President of the United States, and Kamala Harris, the Vice President. And also, I wrote a letter to the office of the President of the University of the Philippines, the Chairman of the Student Council, and the Chairman of the Student Council of the College of Law of the University of the Philippines, telling the UP President and the Presidents of the Student Councils to ignore the letter of revocation coming from Duterte through the Department of National Defense. Because if indeed Duterte is right when he said, call me a mayor because I am not president, then why should you honor the spokesman or alter ego of a mayor and not president? I told them to ignore that. And with respect to Joe Biden, I suggested in my letter that the visit to the Philippines, the visit to the Philippines only sometime on July 10 or July 4, because I want to make sure that no NPA operative can penetrate the security force around Joe Biden when he comes to the Philippines. We need a time. That's why I'm asking the Usaffe forces in Mindanao, in the Visayas and Luzon, to submit the names of those who will attend the National Conference on July 10 and the celebration of the True Independence Day on July 4. So we can submit that to the U.S. government for a background check to find out if they are loyal to democracy or to the left. We cannot risk the lives of the American president and vice president if both of them will come to visit the Philippines. And so those who are active in the service of the Usaffe Liberation Army, I am suggesting that you submit a list of those who would come to the national office on July 4, from July 4 to July 10. So we can check your background and make sure that there will be morally secure parameters around President Joe Biden of the United States. Pinariset ko yung planned visit ni Joe Biden sa Pilipinas. And to repeat, I asked the President of the University of the Philippines to ignore the letter from Duterte through Lorenzana. At the same time, I asked the President of the University of the Philippines to set up a convocation with, in the university where I'm allowed to speak to the students concerning the status or the state of the nation and my plan for total cleansing the country. So that was what I did. And to repeat, the letter that I wrote to Biden was basically designed to make sure that Biden starts with the right foot in dealing with the Filipino people. Alam nyo, minsan kung powerful ka tulad ni Biden, you are bound to be reckless in your statement. When Duterte said, you give us vaccine or there will be no visiting forces agreement, extortion yun. Nagalit si Biden, pero ang pinarusahan niya, ang sinabi niya, there will be no, he will cancel all the visas, US visas of the Filipino people. Ayun dahil may kapangyarihan yung tao. Pero mali. He started with a wrong foot. I wrote him a letter. I told him, try to start with the right foot. Because 99% of the Filipino people are pro-Americans. Kunti lang yung mga komunista dito. Bakit sa statement na isang baliw, ang buong Pilipinas pinaparusahan mo o paparusahan mo? Ayun, tumahimik si Biden. And I don't want him to commit more mistakes. Kasi pag you don't remind the Americans that they are also humans and that they could be wrong, they will continue to do things that are outside the parameters of internationally acceptable morality. So, ni-remind ko, halimbawa, that during the Second World War, tayong mga Filipinos ang panalo dito sa Philippine soil. The whole country, when MacArthur escaped to Australia, fought against Japan. And 2 million Filipinos died in the field of battle, fighting for America and the whole of humanity, so that freedom-loving peoples can breathe free forever. 2 million died. And in effect, the Filipino people won the war against Japan on the Philippine soil. 2 million died, 15,000 died on the part of the Americans. The most tragic about that, I reminded Biden, was during the signing ceremony in Tokyo, the surrender instrument in Tokyo, President Ospina, the President of the Philippines, was not invited to sign the Treaty of Surrender. But 7 other countries, like Russia, Australia, New Zealand, which did not fight in the Philippines, were all invited to sign that historic document. And that abuse went on because we, the Filipinos, did not care or did not even know that we should sign that instrument of surrender because we poured blood and tears and sweat in the fields of battle, perished in some dark and starless nights for freedom and democracy. And we should have been asked to sign. I reminded Joe Biden about that. Parang hindi na maulit yung ginawa nilang masama sa atin. Kasi because of the fact that according to the historians in America, the Filipinos did most of the dying, most of the fighting. Sabi niya, the Filipinos are loyal to America, and because of their unflagging loyalty, America was set free on Philippine soil. Yun sinabi ni MacArthur. So ni-remind ko si Biden about what we did for America. Kasi pag nalimot niyan sila, kung ano-ano na lang ginawa, kung ano lang sinasabi. We did most of the dying and the fighting. But when I was in the United States, yung mga kalaban ng Amerika, yung Japan, Italy, Germany, the Japanese, Italian, Germans, binigyan automatic visas to America, excluding the Filipinos. 2 million of whom died fighting for America. They are ungrateful. Pero hindi nalalaman nila yan kasi during that time, hindi tayo umimik. Hindi tayo nag-complain. We did remind America that we fought for America in 1,000 battlefields in Bataan and Corridor. We fought for America in the forbidding jungles of Vietnam. We fought for America in the cold lands of Korea. We fought for America in the battlefields of Europe and many other parts of the world. The point where the whole world is surrounded with the lonesome graves of Filipinos who fought and died, that the American people and humanity may be free. Hindi nila alam yan kasi hindi tayo umimik. Tinatawag colonial-minded tayo. And we have learned to accept whatever the whites are doing to us. Why? For 333 years, binababoy tayo ng mga Kastila. Ang treatment sa atin worse than a dog. Kunti lang mali, papatayin ka. Si Rizal, nagsulat ng libro, aklat na hindi naman masama, pinatay during the 18th century. Pinatay ng mga Kastila. Abusadong abusado. And that had been done for 333 years. 333 years. Sinabi ng mga Kastila, ikaw, Pinoy, wala kang kwenta, stupid ka, mongoloid ka, gago ka. And the Filipinos heard about that time and again until he believed that indeed he was useless. Yun ang paniwala sa sarili niya. Kasi for 333 years, the Spaniards pounded on his mind that he is useless, he's a coward, he's nothing, good for nothing. Then followed by the Americans. They were not probably very abusive, but they killed more or less half of the population in the Philippines, according to Mark Twain. Hindi, sabi ni Pamatong, Mark Twain, the father of American literature, especially in Samar, after the Balangiga massacre, lahat na mukhang tao, binabaril, maski na bata, kasi nag-revenge yung Americans na namatay yung mga 48 Americans doon sa Balangiga. Pinatay almost all of the people in Balangiga. And all in all, according to Mark Twain, half of the Filipino people were killed. Pero hindi natin sinasabi yan palagi. Kaya nga nalimutan ng Amerikano. Yung Amerikano ngayon, yung mga bata hindi nila alam na mas marami siyang pinatay sa Pilipinas than in other countries. Maraming pinatay. Doon sa Laos, 6 million ang pinatay sa Amerikano, mga Amerikano doon. Sa Vietnam, millions. Binumba ng binumba. Sa Japan, more or less a million. Pero hindi nag-complain ang mga tao. At given the fact that superior ang American propaganda machine, mabango ang Amerikano tingnan. So I reminded her, yun ang purpose ng letter, short ang letter, pero ni-remind ko sila na after the World War, ang Pilipinas na nasira yung Manila completely, walang tumayong building dyan. Ang nagsira hindi Hapon, ang nagsira Amerikano. But after the war, Truman sent MacArthur to Japan to repair Japan, not the Philippines. Yun, hindi rin alam ng mga Amerikano yan. Kaya nga akala nila yung mga mendicant tayo. We, America, owes the Philippines so much. Hindi alam ng mga Amerikano na during their occupation of the Philippines, yung mga gold bars doon sa Baguio Mines, napakarami, ilang metric tons yun. Dinala doon sa Fort Knox, sa Kentucky. Andun ngayon, natulog yung mga gold bars. Enough to have the highway from Ilocos Norte to Davao gold-plated. Hindi rin alam ng mga Amerikano ngayon, especially yung mga bata, na ninakaw ng mga ninuno nila yung gold bars sa Pilipinas. Hindi alam ng mga Pilipino kasi hindi nagbasa. At kung sabihin mo ngayon, hindi rin naniwala kasi hindi rin nagbasa. Yun ang kasalanan ng Pilipino. Isa sa pinakamalaking kasalanan yung pagka-ignorante niya. For 2,000 years, yun rin ang kasalanan ng buong mundo. For 500 years, yun ang kasalanan ng Pilipinas. Ignorante. So, binigyan sila ng Biblia, yung Holy Bible daw, more than one half, satanic yung provisions. Pwedeng kainin ng bata, iampas ng pato, kainin ng bata, inumin ng dugo, inumin ng ihip, paanakan yung anak babae, paanakan yung kapatid na babae. Lahat ng kabalbalan andun, tinanggap ng mga Filipino kasi hindi nagbasa. Kung sabihin mo ngayon sa mga Pinoy na parparik, satanic yung provision sa Bible, magalit pa sa iyo. Kasi to them, the Bible is the most sacred book the world has ever known. So ang problema natin talaga, napaka-ignorante natin. Itong lahat ng mga problema natin sa Pilipinas, bunga sa pagka-ignorante natin. We are crucified upon the cross of ignorance. And our children will suffer because of that. Yung mga kaibigan, ang substance ang sinasabi ko. Sinabi ko rin na dapat parusahan nila si Trump for saying that the Filipinos are terrorists and animals. Could you imagine that? Tapos tayo nagsakripisyo ng 2 million lives para mabuhay ang mga Amerikano. Itawagin pa tayong terrorists and animals by Trump, yung kaibigan ni Duterte. And nobody in America complained. Even the Filipinos, kunti lang nag-complain ka. I burned the biggest mock-up coffin in the Philippines against Trump when I heard that. I led a rally in front of the U.S. Embassy condemning his barbaric attitude of Trump against the Filipino people. Kasi pag hindi kayo nag-complain, akala ng iba, akala mga bata, tama yung ginagawa ng kalaban natin. Ngayon, halimbawa, you complain about the fact that you were attempting to defraud the Filipinos more than 1,000 pesos per shot, per dose. Marami kayong nag-complain. Kasama na ako, nag-complain rin ako. Nag-record ako ng complaint ko dito. Yung dahil nag-complain tayo, wala, binaba ng 650. Pero even na binaba ng 650 per dose, I'm advising you, huwag kayong magpa-injection dyan. Maski na libre, huwag. Kasi lason yan. Do you think China will give you the most potent medicine against COVID? No. Mga inject mismo, hindi nagpa-injection dyan. Yung mga, ulitin ko, mga pro-China, anak ni Duterte, nag-order ng vaccine sa Amerika, yung Pfizer. Hindi yung Sinovac. So, maski libre, huwag kayo magpa-injection dyan. Kalimutan ninyo yan. Yun ang mga substance sa letter ko to Trump and Kamala Harris, yung Vice President. Maganda rin magsalita, maganda yung kaisipan. Sana maging presidente yan sa Amerika someday. Then you will realize that I issued many directives, siguro more or less 20 directives, orders, requests to the Filipinos. Nireview ko ang mga mali na ginawa ni Duterte. Halos lahat sinira ni Duterte ang Pilipinas. Ang hindi ko maintindihan, pinabayaan lang ng mga Pilipino. Pero konti na lumaban. Pero 99% tahimik. Walang ginawa. Maski sobrang-sobra ng abuso. Ang bakla na yan sa Davao. At yung mga bakla na may spokespersons niya. Tulad ni Harry Roque. Mga bakla. Before that, bakla rin nagsira sa Pilipinas. Si Noynoy Aquino, bakla. Sinabi nilang the greatest president, ilang metric tons na gold kinuha niya doon sa Central Bank, dinala sa Taiwan. Tinakpa nila na mayroong nawalang several metric tons of gold from the Central Bank na kinuha ni Noynoy, dinala doon sa Thailand. Sabihin natin, hindi niya ginawa. So, he should have denied the truth of that allegation. Kasi makasira sa kanya. Pero yung bakla na yan, pinalabas na siya ang the greatest president. Hindi naman totoo yan. Again, yun ang ginawa ko. But before that, I repeated my pasalamat, yung expression of gratitude sa sinabi ni Trump that he will uphold the decision of the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling that the West Philippine Sea, the whole of the West Philippine Sea, belong to the Filipino people. Nagpasalamat ako dyan. Ang may problema dyan, si Duterte. Sabi niya sa China na may-ari dyan at hindi natin guluhin. Binigyan pa niya mga isla dito sa loob ng Pilipinas. So, Digong and the United States are actually not taking the same position. And obviously, if America will respect the Usaffe na lumaban at panalo para sa Amerika during the Second World War at ngayon lumalaban para sa Pilipinas at para sa Amerika dito sa Pilipinas, tayo ang suportahan ng Amerika. During the time of Trump, binigyan si Digong ng $269 million. Alam ni Trump na komunista yan. Pagkatapos binigyan pa ng $269 or $369 million para apihin ang mga Pilipino. Bakit bigyan mo? Komunista yan. At yung komunista na yan, pikit ang mata ng mga Pilipino. Kayo mga Pilipino, pikit ang mata nyo. Na itong komunista na ito, ay hindi maintindihan bakit naghanap ng komunista doon sa UP when he himself komunista. Yung entire cabinet niya, mga komunista. Kaya kinancel yung military UP Accord na hindi pwedeng papasok ang army doon kung walang pahintulot o permiso sa presidente ng UP. Kinancel kasi marami daw komunista doon. Pero ang nag-cancel, mga komunista rin. Bakit? Yung pumasok yung 3 million communists in the Philippines. 3 million, hindi lang dalawa. Hindi isa, hindi 5, hindi 10. 3 million Chinese communists. Most of whom were soldiers. Anong ginawa? Ba't hindi nila pinatigil yun? Bakit pinapasok niya Digong kung ayaw pa niya komunista? Bakit pinabigyan niya 24 million pesos a year ang mga komunista doon sa Davao kung hindi siya komunista? Yun ang hindi ko maintindihan. Kung worry, against siya sa komunista, pero he himself is a communist. Yun si Parago sa Davao, binigyan niya the biggest funeral sa kasaysayan ng Davao. In the history of Davao, Commander Parago was given a funeral procession and hero's burial. Nilibing bilang isang bayani. So, kayong lahat ng mga members ng Usaffe at members ng Bulwark ng Patalan, nag-issue ako ng invitation na tutulong kayo for total, complete, absolute moral cleansing of the Filipino people. Kung walang total, moral, absolute cleansing of the Filipinos, walang mangyari ang Pilipinas. Lahat na magnanakaw, kailangan mawala sa Pilipinas. Kung hindi man mawala, at least magtago para hindi makita ng administration ni President Pamatong. I don't want to see a single crook walking on the soil, Philippine soil, during my administration. Or even after that, gusto ko sana po na ang harapin natin kung paano mag-improve ang Pilipinas. Paano natin mapaligaya ang mga Pilipino, hindi nakawan ang mga Pilipino. Ngayon, kunting-kunti lang ang lumigaya. Out of 110 million Filipinos, siguro maswerte kung may 1 million na maligaya. Sinulatan ko ang lahat ng mga bilyonaryo, lahat ng may negosyo, lahat ng may ari ng barko, lahat ng may-ari ng aeroplano. Ang hingi akong tulong to build 10 million, 20 million armed combatants to stop China's invasion of the Philippines. Walang isa sa mga bilyonaryo, walang isa sa mga inche, walang isa sa mga Filipino. Tulad ni Revillame, yung bakla ng si Vice Ganda, yung mga bilyar, walang maski isang nagbigay ng 1 peso to support the ongoing recruitment of fighters against China. Wala, tahimik. Nag-issue rin ako ng order to stop the telco deal na maglagay ng towers, telephone towers sa lahat ng kampo ng mga army. Hindi pwede yan. Inside or outside, I don't want to see a Chinese telecommunication equipment standing in the Philippines. I want that destroyed. You understand that? Yun ang isa sa mga in-order. At with respect to the 3 million Chinese, karamihan sundalo, I ordered the Bureau of Immigration to report to me the list of every Chinese that entered the Philippines under the GOM para ma-detain at ma-investigar natin kung bakit sila pumasok at sino talaga nagpapasok at magkano per head. Pero sabi ko, hindi sila pwedeng aalis sa Pilipinas. They should stay kasi advantage natin na itong mga Chinese na ito ay andito na, hindi na natin hanapin sa China. So, yung mga general na busog, I advise them to tender courtesy resignation para mapalitan ng mga taong hindi busog ng pera. Marami pa ito na orders sinabi ko, hindi ko na siguro mabangkit lahat kasi 40 minutes na pala ako dito nagsalita. Sinabi ko rin doon sa mga charlatan pala. Like Kibuloy, yung parang bakla at saka gago na yan na Diyos na daw siya, na i-explain niya bakit ginamit pa hanggang ngayon yung Bible na sabi pwedeng kainin ng bata, pwedeng inumin ng dugo, pwedeng patayin ng bata, pwedeng paanakan ng anak, pwedeng paanakan ng kapatid, pwedeng gawin ng lahat ng kabalbalan. But ginamit pa nila yung Bible. Sinabi ko at hinamon ko siya ng debate. Marami ng bisis na hinamon ko si Kibuloy pero hindi tinanggap. Naging bilyonaryo yan. Si Kibuloy, si Villanueva, si Velarde, si Manalo, si sino pa yung hindi ko na alaala, silang Soriano, Tagli, Villegas. Naging bilyonaryo dahil sa Bible na yan na satanic ang karamihang provision. Though, ginamit natin yan. Kasi mayroong mga provision sa Bible na talagang nakakatulong rin na tao. Hindi naman lahat masama. But we cannot use the Bible as a whole. Hindi masabi na perfect ang Bible. Hindi masabi na lahat ng word ng Bible nanggaling sa Diyos. Because masabi bang nanggaling sa Diyos yung utos na patayin ng bata, lagayin at kainin. Hindi naman siguro nanggaling sa Diyos yan. Ano pa yung mga order na ginamit ko? Na maski libre yung side back, hindi pwedeng magpa-injection sila. Na yung lahat ng mga products sa China, hindi pwedeng bilhin. O hindi tayo mag-export sa China, hindi mag-import sa China. Dahil make sure, kung bigyan ako ng full power na mangyari. Nag-order rin ako na yung burning of Zamboanga, may investigahan ulit to find out what really happened. At saka maparusahan yung may kasalanan. I also ordered the re-investigation of Marawi City para maparusahan yung mga tao may kasalanan na sinunog ang Marawi na wala namang malakas na dahilan at yung pera na galing sa ibang bansa ay ninakaw. Naparami pa ito. Hindi ko na lang banggitin lahat kasi nag-45 minutes na ako. Maybe next time. Maalala ko lang sa mga members ng cabinet na in-appoint ko, mag-report kayo sa akin. Para malaman ko kung tanggapin nyo kung hindi. Kasi kung hindi, magantay ako ng mga Pilipinong naniwala who believe in total honesty in public service. My government will implement the policy of total honesty in public service. Walang nakaw. Because the government should be a government based on God. God's policy of total honesty. That is the central theme. That is the core belief of the Usaffe. The core belief of the new administration. The central belief of bulwark of Athala. Total honesty in public service. So mga kaibigan ko, sa hindi ko pa tapusin yung message ko ngayong gabi. Sana po tutulong kayo sa administration ko. Sana po tulungan ninyo itong bagong demokrasya para may bagong buhay ang mga Pilipino, bagong pag-asa. At harapin natin ang kinabukasan na mag-isa, na isa tayong lahat. We'll face the future united, undaunted by all the problems of the day. Let us all march forward and guard the best future for our children and our children's children. I think I have said enough. Thank you, and good night to all.